I must take new counsel for myself and my kindred. We must ride our own road, and no longer in secret. For me the time of stealth has passed. I will ride east by the swiftest way, and I will take the paths of the dead. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Line Unbroken, my progression-style playthrough series of the Lord of the Rings living card game. I am playing the first quest from the 5th Lord of the Rings Saga expansion, Passing of the Grey Company. I am, of course, playing in campaign mode, as I have been throughout this. So, here we are at Passing of the Grey Company. I will just sort out all of this. So, campaign pool, Overcome by Grief, is still here. Ill Fate will be shuffled into the encounter deck. These are from the quest. They're set aside out of play at the start. This rules card I don't really need, but I'll just quickly go over it. Of course, you can't use Frodo, because Frodo is heading off to Mordor. The Phantom keyword basically turns everyone into Spirit Frodo. Instead of taking damage in combat, you raise your threat by the amount of damage you would have taken. The Army of the Dead is a double-sided card with an enemy on one side and an objective ally version on the other. And that's it. So, okay, old bogey stories thematically should still be on Merry. Ho Tom Bombadil is added to the hand of the first player. I haven't actually decided for definite yet if I'm taking a mulligan on this hand, so I should consider that. Oh, also I need to set the visibility of my deck to everybody, because of course I'm playing with Gandalf. Valiant Warrior was of course attached to Aragorn way back at Knife in the Dark, so he has +1 attack. The 3 golden hairs and leaf-wrapped lembas can go anywhere really. And Beyond All Hope, of course, is attached to Gandalf. +1 to all his stats. I have here Tactics Airwind, set up, reduce your threat by 3. And the setup for the quest set. Well, technically, I suppose I decide if I take a mulligan first. And this is relevant because I know what happens on the other side of this quest card. I don't want to have a lot of good cards in my hand that I will not be able to play. But this could be pretty reasonable. I might end up losing Celebrian Stone. I'm just going to check how many copies of Celebrian Stone I have in the deck. Probably more than one, because I know the risk of it getting discarded. There are 2 copies of Celebrian Stone in this deck. So, yeah, I think I'll stick with this. Ho Tom Bombadil is added to my hand. On the campaign card, we see Setup. Each player may change heroes without incurring the +1 threat penalty. Of course, I've done that because we switched back from the heroes who are going off to Mordor back to the heroes who are in Rohan. The first player may raise each player's threat by 1 to search his deck for Andyril and add it to his hand. Remove each burden with the following burden set icons from the encounter deck. That's already sorted. I am not going to raise threats to go find Andyril, because I would probably just end up discarding it. And the quest card setup. Set the Stone of Eric and Army of the Dead aside out of play. Each player attaches a copy of Overcome by Fear to his threat dial. Remove each unattached copy of Overcome by Fear from the game. So 2 copies of Overcome by Fear are removed from the game, and the other 2 are attached to the threat dials. So I'm just putting them out here. Flip this over. "This is an evil door," said Halbarad, "and my death lies beyond it. I will dare to pass it nonetheless." When revealed, each player may add 1 resource to the resource pool of each hero he controls. Each player who does so must raise his threat by 3. I will be doing that for both decks. I don't need the resource on the first player token. So, raise threats by 3. Oh yes, of course. I forgot that also both decks raise their threats by 2 for the fact that I had a fallen hero who was subsequently replaced earlier in the campaign. I believe that's right, that it's +2 threat in total. No. On reflection, I realise I was wrong. It is only +1 starting threat for a fallen hero. So, okay, this should be the correct start. And here we see forced. At the end of the planning phase, discard all cards in each player's hand and advance to stage 2A. So this is why, as I said, I don't want to have a bunch of good cards in my hand that I can't play. So, Control N. Okay, Glamdring there. Spare copy of Gambling. Alright. So, yes, let's see. What can I sensibly afford? I could do Garn Bilbo. Yeah, I'm probably losing Celebrian Stone. But let's play Garnbury Garn. And let's play Bilbo. And then search my deck for the Wizard Pipe. Add it to my hand, shuffle my deck. Play the Wizard Pipe. Okay, that Unexpected Courage is good, and hang on, I will do it like that. Also pay 2 for Gandalf's Staff. Now, I think I would probably rather keep my Unexpected Courages available, which means leaving this one on the top of my deck rather than using the Wizard Pipe to swap something else on top of my deck in order to play it. I don't know, I'm not sure. Getting Celebrian Stone right away? No. Okay, this is fine. Add a resource to Baragond, and then pay 1 for the Ring of Barahir on Aragorn. This version of Aragorn, of course, the first player gains control of Aragorn. If Aragorn leaves play, the players lose the game. While Aragorn has an artifact attached, he gains Sentinel and does not exhaust a quest. The Ring of Barahir is an artifact, so that has now been activated. Hoton Bombadil is going to get discarded at the end of the planning phase, but I think I'm okay with that. I do have Tests of Will. So, over here, I can play a Gondorian Shield onto Baragond. I can play Shadowfax onto Gandalf. Oh, okay. Hang on, what? Maybe I don't want to play the shield, in which case 2 resources from Eowyn for Shadowfax and only 1 from Theoden, and I could then play Snowmane and Gambling. I definitely want to play Gambling. Who only costs 2 with the discount from Theoden. I suppose the other angle on this would be I could, if I'm planning this cooperatively, I could, instead of using the staff to add a resource to Barragond to play the Ring of Barra here, I could have put the Ring of Barra here on top of my deck using the Wizard Pipe, paid for it using Gandalf, and used Gandalf's staff to add a resource over here. There are, of course, 2 more copies of the Gondorian Shield in the deck. And the enemies are mostly not that dangerous. So maybe this is fine. Let's just do it this way. Okay. At the end of the planning phase, all of these are discarded, and I advanced to stage 2A. He could see nothing but the dim flame of the torches, but if the company halted, there seemed an endless whisper of voices all about him, a murmur of words in no tongue that he had ever heard before. When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck for a different location and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. So, let's see here. Different locations. We have the Trysting Place, the Deadly Road, the Haunted Path, and there should be one more. The Dark Door. 4 locations, so if you play this quest 4-player, you have no choice. The Trysting Place, while it's in the staging area, each enemy in the staging area cannot take damage. That's not a problem for me, but it is 3 threat, and the travel cost will find an enemy. Deadly Road, only 2 threat. After when revealed, effect is cancelled, raise each player's threat by 1. Spend 1 fellowship resource to travel here, but of course, there is... I just realised... Yeah, I could have planned out my planning and left a resource on Aragon. It would have worked out fine because I could use Gandalf's staff in the refresh phase to add a resource to Aragon. But it's simpler. I only used Aragon and Gandalf to pay for neutral cards anyway. Yes, right. Yes, of course, at the moment I have no cancellation events. So this forced effect is not a problem. Haunted Path gets +1 threat for each player with a threat of 35 or higher. The Dark Door. Basically, I'm going to take the 2 lowest threat options. Which are these 2? The Haunted Path could potentially increase up to 3 threat, but that would still only be equal to the Trysting Place. And at the moment, it is only 1. Because neither deck has reached 35 threat yet. There could be no turning back. All the paths behind were thronged by an unseen host that followed in the dark. X is the threat of the player with the highest threat. Each player cannot reduce his threat below his initial threat level. Forced at the beginning of the planning phase, each player must choose either raise your threat by 1 or you cannot play cards this phase. So, there is 3 threat in the staging area. This currently has 34 quest points. Aragon does not exhaust the quest. So, we quest 2, 5, 6, I need to remember. The increases from Beyond All Hope. So 2, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18. And we reveal. Oh, of course, Overcome by Fear. Set up attached to your threat dial, limit 1 per threat dial. Your threat cannot be reduced. Forced at the end of the round, raise your threat by 1, then you may spend 1 fellowship resource to detach Overcome by Fear and set it aside out of play. So, Bloodrun's Chill, Doomed 1. And each player with a threat of 35 or higher deals 1 damage to each exhausted character he controls. So, this deck has just hit 35 threat, which increases the threat of the Haunted Path as well. This deck is still fine. And Faithless Dead. Peril, Phantom. When revealed, either raise each player's threat by 2 or reveal an additional encounter card. I'm going to take the threat raise. So that has added 2 threat to the staging area, in addition to increasing the Haunted Path, as I already noted. So I make 12 progress. And because I quested successfully, Theoden readies from Snowmane. So, travel. Haunted Path, I would have to raise each player's threat. Here, the Deadly Road, I would have to spend a Fellowship resource. Of course, I need the Fellowship resources for Overcome by Fear, but I can get an extra one in the refresh phase before the end of the round using Gandalf's Staff. Maybe I still want to save this, though. I might want to use Gandalf's Staff to draw more cards instead, since currently neither deck has any cards at all. So let's travel to the Haunted Path, raising each deck's threat by 1. And let's engage the Faithless Dead. To the Shadow card. Baragon defends. Attacking enemy gets +1. So that's 4 attack against 4 defense. Baragon's ability, after he defends an attack and takes no damage, reduce the defending player's threat by 1. But of course, Overcome by Fear, your threat cannot be reduced. But now I attack for 3, and Gandalf is 4 at ranged. So that's easily enough to kill the Faithless Dead. And okay, first round I will do this properly. Control R. Natural threat raises have happened. Aragorn moves over here. I'm just going to move these further out of the way. And then at the end of the round, raise threat by 1. Raise threat by 1. Pay 1 Fellowship resource to detach Overcome by Fear and set it aside out of play. So now we just have this 1 Overcome by Fear. And Control N, new round. Alright. So, at the beginning of the planning phase, each player must choose either raise your threat by 1 or you cannot play cards this phase. This deck, I think, is fine not being able to play cards this phase. Golden Shield is good, but it's not needed right now. This deck might have more use for being able to play cards. Factoring in Gandalf's Staff, I could play Unexpected Courage and Ancient Matham, which would allow this deck to draw more cards, so it might have stuff it could play next round. But the threat is already getting a bit high. But I think I will go for it, raise my threat by 1. Add a resource to Baragon. Play an Ancient Matham onto the active location. Play an Unexpected Courage onto Baragon, I think. And okay, there is 2 threat in the staging area. We quest for 2, 6, 8, I could reveal that treachery again. Ten Gunbury Guns willpower is equal to the threat of the active location, which currently is 2. So, okay, questing a bit less this round, but still 2, 6, 8, 10, 14. And we reveal another haunted path and a third haunted path. So that puts us up to 6 threat. I make 8 progress. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is explored. I quested successfully, so Theoden readies. And draw 3 cards for the Ancient Madam. Okay. Well, once again, there's something to be said for maintaining flexibility with regards to Gandalf's staff. I still haven't drawn any cancellations, so the deadly roads are still not that big a problem. Of course, the travel cost of travelling to the haunted path, well, I suppose this deck will be at 35 threat next round anyway, so sure, let's go to another haunted path. This deck's threat is a bit of a concern, but I'm hopeful that it'll be alright. So now I'm just going to do everything now. Technically this happens at the end of the round, but it all comes to the same thing. And this time I think this deck will not be raising its threat to play cards. As nice as it would be to play this Ancient Madam and draw more cards, which might allow me to reduce my threat. Okay. So over here, let's pay 1 for mustering the Rohirrim. Search the top 10 cards of my deck for a Rohan ally. Well, my choices are between the Riddermark's Finest and Hammer. I guess I'll take Hammer and shuffle, but then I'm going to play the Riddermark's Finest first. Oh, of course I had to raise my threat by 1 in order to be able to play cards. Play the Golden Shield onto Theoden. And play this Unexpected Courage onto maybe also Theoden. Yeah. Seems fine. And now we quest. There is 5 threat in the staging area. We quest for 2, 6, 9, 13, 15, 15. And we reveal Shadow Host. This deck exhausts Mary and lowers its threat by 4. Nowhere in revealed effect, only when it engages you. Okay. And Ghosts of Men. When revealed, either attach a set aside Overcome by Fear to your threat dial, or Ghosts of Men makes an immediate attack against you. Well, I could probably take either of these options, because I have a reasonable number of defenders available. But also, if I attach overcome by fear. Effectively, that's just one extra point of threat, and it costs one resource from Aragorn at the end of the round to remove it. How many defenses do I have? So this, when it engages you, either attach, set aside, overcome by fear, or it makes an immediate attack. But then, let's see, I have 2 defenses from Baragond, 1 from Theoden, potentially 1 from Aragorn or Gandalf. I suppose I don't want to overwhelm myself, so let's just attach overcome by fear for that when revealed. I have added 7 threat to the staging area. I am only making 3 progress. That is unfortunate. But I think I'm okay with that. Theoden readies because we quested successfully. I will exhaust and discard the Riddermark's finest, exhausting gambling to return it to my hand instead, to place 2 progress on the deadly road. Now, engaging enemies. Shadow Host is more dangerous and harder to kill. Although, still totally possible for me to kill it. So, okay. Yeah, I will engage the Shadow Host here. I will not attach a set aside overcome by fear. It will make an immediate attack, which I will defend with Baragond. Okay, 4 against 4. Baragond takes no damage, and I trigger his ability to lower my threat by 1. This deck engages the Ghosts of Men. And now in the combat phase. I suppose actually... Theoden with the Golden Shield is the same defense as Baragond. So it doesn't really matter which way around I do these. Your threat is 35 or higher. Defending character cannot ready until the end of the round. Well, that's a problem. Well, it's okay. He doesn't take damage, but of course his ability is limit once per round, so that doesn't help. And Theoden defends, exhausting the Golden Shield to add his willpower to his defense, and also takes no damage. Aragorn is 4 attack, Gandalf is also 4 attack, so between them they can kill the Shadow Host. Theoden is 3 attack, he deals 2 damage to the Ghosts of Men. I will exhaust Gandalf's staff to draw a card. Alright. Aragorn comes back over here, spends a resource to detach this overcome by fear after it raises this deck's threat by an extra 1. And control N, and I also need to discard that shadow card. Baragond does not ready during the refresh phase because of that shadow effect, but he can ready with the unexpected courage afterwards. Over here, okay, we found a test of will. Yeah, I'm going to raise my threat by 1 and pay 1 for... Oh. This deck dropped... During the quest phase last round, this deck dropped its threat below 35, which reduced the threat of the Haunted Path in the staging area, but it also reduced the threat of the Haunted Path that was the active location, thus reducing Garnbury Garn's willpower. So... 1 less threat, but 1 less willpower, so I still made the same amount of progress. That is fine. Since I have cancellation now, I will immediately clear the deadly road in the staging area so that I can potentially play that cancellation. Of course, it's worth noting, at the beginning of the planning phase, you must choose to either raise your threat by 1 or you cannot play cards this phase. In the quest phase, you're totally fine to play cards without raising your threat. So Test of Will is not a problem. Now over here, I could raise my threat by 1 and play Steward of Gondor. And also take the opportunity to play the Ancient Madam. I think I want to do that. Steward of Gondor goes, of course, on Aragorn. Okay, let's also swap this Test of Will onto the top of my deck. Good Harvest, naming Spirit to play this Unexpected Courage. And play the Ancient Madam. That's just going to draw more cards for this deck. No. Put it on this one instead. So this Unexpected Courage should probably go on Gandalf. Since he's 4 attack, 4 defense, ranged sentinel. Okay. Actually, this deck has Glatherm's Greetings in it, which I don't think this one does. So no, the Madam should go here. Okay. So there is 3 threat in the staging area. We quest for 2, 6, 8, 11, 15. And reveal. Trysting Place and Ill Fate. Peril Surge. Okay, let's just attach it to Pippin. And it surges into Ghosts of Men. For which I will exhaust Mary, lowering my threat by 3, which again reduces the threat but also reduces my willpower. So that's 2, 5, 8 threat in the staging area against my 14 willpower. I make 6 progress. Trigger the Ancient Madam. This deck draws 3 cards. There we go. Glatherm's Greeting. Theoden readies because of Snowbane. Banner of Elendil I will not be able to play for a couple of rounds. Okay, so the Trysting Place. The first player searches the encounter deck and discard power for an Oathbreaker enemy and puts it into play engaged with him. Shuffle the encounter deck. I think I'd rather not. So let's just go to the Haunted Path. Hang on, Ghosts of Men. I didn't resolve the when revealed. It was revealed for this deck. So I'll take the immediate attack. Either attach a set aside overcome by fear, or it makes an additional attack after this one. Okay, well. Oh. Yeah, okay, actually I'll take the overcome by fear this time. But Aragorn takes no damage, so I reduce my threat by 1. And then let's engage these Ghosts of Men. Deal shadow cards. Theoden will defend this. Either attach overcome by fear or an additional attack after this one. Of course, it's worth noting that the Golden Shield only adds willpower for one attack. So if Theoden defends again, he will be at his base defense of 2. But I think that's probably the better way to do things. Take the attack. Theoden defends. The threat is 35 or higher. It is not. Theoden would take 1 damage, but because of the Phantom keyword, instead, this deck raises its threat by 1. Now over here, Gandalf will defend. No shadow effect, so he takes no damage. I need 4 attack to kill this, which is exactly Aragorn. 6 to kill this one, which I don't actually have, but I can attack for 5. It'd be almost there. Exhaust Gandalf's staff to draw a card. Discard the shadow card. And then in the refresh phase, raise my threat by an extra 1. Pay a fellowship resource after Aragorn moves to set aside that overcome by fear. Control N. Okay. This deck is not raising its threat in the planning phase. This deck will raise its threat in the planning phase. Actually, no. Maybe it won't. No, I'd just be playing Grimbold. That's not that important. So neither deck raises its threat, but this deck will pay 3 in either the resource phase or the quest phase for Garthrim's Greeting, dropping this deck's threat by 6. Now, okay, hang on, that treachery that deals damage. It is not peril. Well, I suppose just to be safe, I could add a resource to this deck. I should Wizard Pipe the Test of Will back on top of my deck. I'm just thinking, obviously, I've been avoiding questing with Pippin and Bilbo because if I get that treachery a second time, then they would die. Since I now have Tests of Will available, I could just go for that, knowing that I can cancel it if it comes up. I will exhaust Gandalf's Star to add a resource to Theoden. And okay, we have 3 threat in the staging area. We quest for 2, 6, 8, 11, 13, 17, 19. And we reveal Dead Men of Dunharrow, exhaust Merry, drop this deck's threat by 2, which once again reduces my willpower by 1. And Whispers in the Dark. Peril. Either attach or set aside overcome by fear to your threat dial, or each character you control gets -1 to all stats until the end of the round. That's the card for this deck. I don't think it's that big a deal. So that loses me 2 points of willpower. But otherwise, it's fine. I've added 2 threat to the staging area. This is a force when it engages. Theoden readies, because I quested successfully. So, 11 progress. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is explored. I probably can go to the trysting place at this point. So the first player searches for an Oathbreaker and puts it into play engaged with him. Let's take a look in the encounter deck. Okay, so I've been worrying about that damage treachery. Both copies have already gone. Or, no, sorry, all 3 copies, rather, have already gone. The other 2 went as shadow cards. So I didn't need to worry about using Gandalf's staff, but never mind. Okay, so let's see. This has a force effect when it engages. These have a force effect when they engage. These have a when revealed. So let's take one of these. How bad are the shadow effects? Really not that bad. Okay, so, and then this deck, in the encounter phase, will engage this Dead Man of Dunharrow. After it engages you, either attach a set aside Overcome by Fear to your threat dial, or raise your threat by 2. I will attach Overcome by Fear, because since in the refresh phase Aragorn will move, and I will immediately be able to remove Overcome by Fear, effectively attaching Overcome by Fear raises my threat by 1. Instead of the threat raise of 2. It also costs 1 resource, but I don't have a problem with resources. So we deal shadow cards. Baragond defends. Takes no damage, so I lower my threat by 1. Baragond defends again. +1 attack and loses the phantom keyword. Baragond takes no damage. Theoden defends this. +1 attack. Still nothing. Ghosts of Men are almost dead already. It takes 5 to kill this. 4 for this. Okay, so Gandalf can kill this one by himself. Gandalf and Aragorn can kill this one. Theoden is 3. Gambling is an additional 1. For the 4, which kills the Dead Man of Dunharrow. Aragorn crosses the table, spends a resource to remove this. This deck takes the additional threat raise. Control N. Okay, raising my threat by 1 so I can play cards. Banner of Elendil. Herogrim only costs 2 to play on Theoden. Two for Grimbold. Switch the Test of Will back on top of my deck again. Actually, hang on. No, before I do that, I'm just going to use Gandalf's staff to draw a card. Okay, and then I will. Planetary of Orthanc is not that big a deal. But, okay, the Banner of Elendil attached to Aragorn. While Aragorn is committed to the quest, each other questing character you control gets +1 willpower. While Aragorn is attacking, each other attacking character you control gets +1 attack. Pretty powerful. There is no threat in the staging area. So, Aragorn is not boosted by the Banner of Elendil, but every other quester this deck has is. So, questing for 2, 7, 10, 13, 15, 18, 20, 24. Revealing Deadly Road and Dead Man of Dunharrow. Exhaust Mary and lower this deck's threat by 2. So I make 20 progress. 1, 2, 3. this is explored. So I now have 45 progress out of the 41 quest points. I quested successfully, so Theoden readies. And now I advance the quest. I see shapes of men and of horses, and pale banners like shreds of cloud, and spears like winter thickets on a misty night. The dead are following. When revealed, add the Stone of Eric and Army of the Dead enemy side face up to the staging area. Each player may raise his threat by 3 to detach Overcome by Fear from his threat dial and set it aside out of play. Obviously I don't need to do that second part. Yes, the dead ride behind. They have been summoned. While the Stone of Eric is the active location, each Oathbreaker enemy loses the Phantom keyword and gets minus 20 engagement cost. When the Stone of Eric leaves play as an explored location, the players win the game. Stone of Eric. Immune to player card effects forced. After it becomes the active location, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for an Oathbreaker enemy and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. Travel, remove 5 progress from stage 3B to travel here. So we need to make the progress here before we can travel to the Stone of Eric, which allows us to win the quest. The Army of the Dead. X is twice the number of players in the game. Forced. When Army of the Dead attacks, you must either attach a set-aside Overcome by Fear to your threat dial, or discard an ally you control. So, let's travel to the Deadly Road, spending 1 fellowship resource. I don't have to engage the Army of the Dead right away, but I probably should. It is immune to player card effects, so I can't just cancel the attack with Grimbold. But that's fine. We will engage here. And here. Attaching Overcome by Fear. Deal shadow cards. So Baragon will defend. Okay, 6 attack against 4 defense, so this deck does raise its threat by 2 because of the Phantom keyword. Over here, Baragon defends, takes no damage, and I lower my threat by 1. So, it takes 10 attack to kill the Army of the Dead. Aragorn is 4. Theoden is 3, plus another 2 from Herogrim, plus another 1 from the Banner of Elendil. That is 10. So the Army of the Dead goes to the victory display. Oh, of course, when the Army of the Dead attacks, either attach Overcome by Fear or discard an ally I control. Of course, I will just discard Grimbold and return him to my hand. Using gambling. Now, I should point out, of course, I have this ability on Eowyn. Action, raise your threat by 3 to ready Eowyn. She gets plus 9 attack until the end of the phase, limit once per game for the group. So she could have taken out the Army of the Dead by herself, but since I didn't need to use her, I may as well save the threat. And over here it takes 4 attack to kill this guy, so Gandalf can do it by himself. Control N. I have to pay resource from Aragorn to detach Overcome by Fear and take the additional plus 1 threat. There is no longer a restriction on playing cards in the planning phase. I can play all the cards I like. Let's attach the Palantir of Orthanc to Aragorn. The Ring of Barrow here is now giving him +3 hit points, so he's up to 8, which is reasonable. Did I actually use Gandalf's Staff last round? I'm not sure. It's not that important. Let's use it now to draw a card. Not finding the cards I really want. I have been completely forgetting that Pippin has an ability throughout this entire game, though for a lot of the game my threat has been quite high, so I would not have been able to trigger it in any case. I may have missed out on the opportunity to draw some extra cards along the way. So, okay, we will once again put the Test of Will on top of the deck. Let's play Grimbold again. And I'll actually pay the full 2 for the Riddermark's Finest. So, there is 5 threat in the staging area. Request 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, 22, 24, and reveal. Whispers in the dark. Either attach a set overcome by fear, or each character you control gets -1 to all stats until the end of the round. Okay, that loses me 5 willpower. I'm going to keep that here, because this deck may use its other stats. Dead Man of Dunharrow, this deck exhausts Mary and lowers its threat by 2. So, okay, 2 threat added, I make 12 progress. This is explored. Theoden is ready because I quested successfully. I remove 5 progress from the quest to travel to the Stone of Eric. After the Stone of Eric becomes the active location, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for an Oathbreaker enemy and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. Okay, let's see what is in the encounter deck. No shadow effects. So, let's see. We want to take ones which don't have effects when they engage. These are the weakest that don't have effects when they engage. So, there we go. Now this, when it engages... Okay, so this one should engage here, and I'll attach the Overcome by Fear, and these two should come down here. And that's fine. This one doesn't get a shadow card. Baragond defends. Takes no damage. And reduces threat by 1. Baragond defends again. Takes no damage. Of course, yeah, the enemies no longer have the Phantom keyword, so I could actually take damage instead of threat. They also have -20 engagement cost, but that is less relevant. Theoden defends this. Takes no damage. Takes 5 attack to kill these. So there isn't actually an efficient way of doing it. It takes 4 attack to kill this one, so Theoden is fine. So Gandalf can't quite... everyone is -1 attack. But that was massive overkill. However, this one takes 1 less damage because Gandalf is actually only 3 attack right now. Yes, also Baragond was only 3 defense, but that's not a problem. I almost forgot about the effect of that treachery despite having specifically left it there, so I would remember, but never mind. I will, of course, be removing overcome by fear again. And Control N. Okay, well, let's... Actually, this is the deck with the greetings in it, isn't it? So, let's have this deck draw an extra card. It's not a greeting. I'll pay 2 for Harmer. Pay 2 for a Westfold Outrider. Over here, I'll pay 3 for the sword that was broken. Elf Helm, a bit late. But why not? Here we go, Elf Helm. And that'll be that. There is no threat in the staging area. Sword that was broken adds willpower to everyone, including Aragorn. Oh, actually. I take these back. I'm going to trigger old bogey stories to basically take a mulligan with this deck. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope. Well, actually, I would have done that before using Gandalf's staff. Okay. So then I guess instead I will play the Horse Breeder. Search the top 10 cards for a mount. I don't find one. Play the Outrider. And play another Riddermark's Finest. Over here it's all the same. Right, no threat in the staging area. Everything is +1 willpower. So we quest for 3. Well, of course, all this lot are effectively +2 willpower. So 3, 9, 13, 17, 19, 22, 24, 29, 31, 35. I'm actually going to hold back these two, because I might want to cancel other things than the thing that could kill them. So, no turning back. Each player must choose either attach a set aside overcome by fear to your threat dial, or discard an ally you control. Okay. This deck will discard Bilbo. This deck will discard the Westfold Outrider. That's fine. And Dead Man of Dunharrow. Exhaust Merry. Lower my threat by 2. So there is now 2 threat in the staging area. I discarded the Westfold Outrider, which was contributing 2 willpower. So now I only make 27 progress out of the 5 that I needed. So, there we go. Stone of Eric leaves players to an explored location. The players win the game. Resolution. Add each copy of Overcome by Fear attached to a player's threat dial to the campaign pool and record the name of each player it was attached to. If Army of the Dead is in the victory display, add the Army of the Dead boon to the campaign pool. The players have earned each card added to the campaign pool. I have no Overcome by Fears, and I have the Army of the Dead. I realised it's possible I could have ended up screwing myself over with my decision to use old bogey stories, because there is a card in here which I never revealed during the game. This one. The way is shut. Peril, Surge. Either attach a set-aside Overcome by Fear to your threat dial, or progress cannot be placed on the current quest until the end of the round. Actually, I suppose I could have just said progress can't be placed and just taken longer, and I had the game under control at this point, so it was fine. But that would have forced me to take an extra round, because I do not want to attach Overcome by Fear, since it would be added to the campaign pool if I finished the quest with it still attached. But that didn't happen. I didn't have to make that awkward decision, so that worked out fairly well. Obviously, could have dug further through my decks, ideally, but I don't have Legolas in this deck, which arguably I really should, just for thematic reasons, if nothing else. But then I suppose it would be difficult to afford him with only one tactics hero. Didn't get all of the toys out for Aragon. Never found a Warden of Healing, which obviously would have been helpful just because of that one treachery to counteract that damage, so I could safely quest with my hobbits. But basically, this all worked out pretty fine. As noted, the Army of the Dead is added to my campaign pool. Have a score. There we go. And here we go. Army of the Dead. I only get the Army of the Dead for one quest, and for some reason it doesn't. Okay, that's weird. So, okay, it is possible to just add a random card. If you hit Control A on the just on the table, it brings up this window to allow you to add a card, and I can search for Army. And here we go, Army of the Dead. 4 willpower, 6 attack, 2 defense, 8 hit points, immune to player guard effects. The first player gains control of Army of the Dead. Set up, the first player takes control of Army of the Dead. If it leaves play, remove it from the game. As I said, I only get this for one quest, but it's really useful to have it. So that will come into play for the next quest, which is the Siege of Gondor. If you enjoyed this, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.